If you are a real estate agent and you are tired of cold calling, door knocking, paying for ads that flat out don't work, or just tired of not knowing how to generate leads, then this is the channel for you. We are four rockstar agents who have come together to help fellow agents achieve financial freedom as well as location and time freedom. My name is Andy Hollis, along with my partners Aileen Fountain, David Doran, and Tim Hollenden. Together, we have over 50 plus years experience and knowledge in the real estate and sales and training industry, and we are hoping to pass that knowledge on to you. So let's get started.
So we're going to talk about rent to own and get into a lot of the details. There's a lot of misunderstandings and real reasons why people are skeptical about rent to own. So we are going to demystify it. So let's see, click, there we go. Me, like Kathy said, I'm the co-owner of Real Home Solutions and co-host Mr. Rent to Own Homes show, which is a good show. I co-host that with Dominic Danino. He's actually a lender, but he's also in the same space. Very knowledgeable guy. Like I always have questions and call him. So he's a good partner. And he's based in Arizona. So we do this all over the place. So not just Colorado where I'm at. I also teach a continuing education class that's kind of similar to this for agents so that they can understand how this works. But since we're nationwide, you don't get CE credit for that. But if you're in Colorado and want one credit, you can come back and take that and get 1 hour. So benefits for buyers with the way that we do it. They get to pick out the home, move in right away, and avoid having to move multiple times. That's the biggest benefit. They get to move in. They don't have to rent, possibly get kicked out by a landlord. This is a mess, especially with laws changing here in Colorado. Some landlords are like, I'm out, and they sell it, and then their renters have to move. And so it's just eliminates that. We let them make updates to the home. They've got to run it by us because we own it until they can buy it and get a loan. But as long as they're not doing anything that's not permitted or just insane, like painting rooms black or something stupid, they could do that. And they're locking their price in now. That's a double-edged sword, but they don't have to chase the market up. We'll talk about all that. They can gain the equity. I've got a good example of that if the market goes up, and they can walk away. So they've got an option. So the objectives here for you guys are just to learn how you can truly help those buyers that can't qualify for a loan now, learn who can qualify for these programs, which properties are the best ones, and of course, how you guys can earn commissions. And I always like to have lenders come to this class, or they go watch the recording on YouTube, because they can actually get 2 transactions out of this, so that they love us. So if you introduce them, that's great. And then if you're going to bring a client through this process, it's good to have the lender that you guys are working with understand how this works, because lenders are like realtors as well. There's a lot of questions and fears over rent to own. And so knowing that upfront is really helpful. So what do you do normally with turn down clients? And you can unmute if you want, but I'll just go through it. Normally, you put them on a follow-up campaign, right? And maybe if credit was one of the problems, and there's many reasons that credit can get thrown off, but you might send them to credit repair, set a follow-up call, and hope they come back. They may never come back, but if we can get them in a house, great. So we're helping them get on that path to home ownership. They don't have to move twice, whatever. We become their hero because the bank told them no, and they feel totally dejected, right? So if we can get them in a house, they're really excited. I don't understand Spanish. Speaking of Spanish, the Spanish community is actually typically a really good fit for rent to own, because a lot of them have cash businesses, landscaping business, cleaning businesses, cash businesses. They may be ITIN buyers, ITIN, not Social Security. Banks have stricter guidelines, and so they're actually a really good fit. We'll talk more about that, who's a good fit for this, but while I was thinking about it. And then last bullet there, you guys get paid now. What have you guys heard? I mentioned it. There's some fears around it. clients getting scammed, they don't end up buying or losing their money. And again, we'll have Q&A at the end, or you can just jump in if you got questions along the way. I think we only have 18 people, so the process, let's just walk through it. So first thing, if you've got a client, introduce them to a rent-to-own company. There aren't many left right now, so we're one of them. And if you have questions, even if your client doesn't fit what our program is, I can at least give you some advice on the best direction to send them.
I have a question, if you don't mind.
Yep.
I don't want to interrupt your presentation, but I'm finding myself working with a lot of teachers, educators, because I was a school principal and they really want help. And I'm actually going to have a home buyer seminar coming up that my current school principal, I still teach a part-time Algebra 1 course, and these teachers want to come to a seminar and learn what they need to do, what they don't understand about the process. How do you find the companies for this, and is this widespread? I'm finding a lot of these educators have got school loans that they've deferred, very poor decision, and it's hurt their credit. They've got poor credit because they haven't made a significant amount of money. And as much as we would love to think that a master's degree in education brings in money, it's not. So they're struggling, and I'm finding myself having to get them into some sort of a savings plan because they got to save for a down payment. There's some loans that offer down payments, but what would you recommend that I do? And I'm down here on the Alabama, Florida Gulf Coast.
Unfortunately, if they have to save up, we'll talk about the qualifications. It's not a good fit. So you'd have to get them on that savings plan. I wish I could solve for that and just affordability, then that'd be a whole other story. But yeah,
Well, most of them are paying $2,500 to $3,000 a month in rent.
as long as that's a lot for down there, probably, right?
Well, it's not a lot for down here, but
Oh.
that's just if you're going to rent a house, you're going to pay in the 2000s at least. But
They've got to have some money to pay up front, similar to a down payment or more for either. There's two programs. I'll talk about that later. Hang tight. We'll get into that. But I wish I could fix that problem. I've got a heart for teachers. Both of my parents were teachers, so I get it. So let's get back into the process. So introduce them to a rent-own company. Like I said, reach out to me if you just want a first pass. I can tell you which direction they can go. They're going to need to be pre-qualified, I call it. So they're not qualified with a bank, right? But we're qualifying them for our pass. But we also do that in partnership with a lender, just going through the motions to see where they're at now and what they need to do. And once we know that they're a good fit for the rent to own and they want to do it or need to do it, then we go to the next step. Let them pick out an example home. You don't have to waste any time taking them around. You just pick something out on Zillow or your KV Core website or wherever you send them, just so we can get an idea of their price range and location. Those things matter because we have to say yes to the home also. So then we're going to get the agreement figured out kind of ahead of time. Then you guys can take them actually looking at homes, unless you already have. This happens all the time. People go out with their agent and then the lender comes back, oh, we missed something. They're actually not qualified. And so things like that happen. So you've maybe already got a house picked out. So once we've got everything dialed in like that, then we or whatever rent-own company will make an offer on that house and ideally get accepted, maybe with some seller paid closing costs. Then we get the agreement signed between us and your client. And we keep you guys involved, especially if it's out of state, outside Colorado. I'm going to have to lean on you guys. So you'll be involved in all this, but it won't be a lot of heavy lifting on the agreement side. So ideally we get the offer accepted and then they just got the time to get their bank loan. And we stick with them too. I reach out every 6 months or however often it makes sense, just to see where they're at, and usually loop in the lender again. Hey, are you guys doing what you need to do? And there's multiple reasons why they can't get a loan and what they need to do. And then they get their loan and buy the house. So any questions on that process? Okay, oops. Let's see. So ideal clients, steady income, whether it's W-2 or 1099. Like I was saying, self-employed people, they need usually 2 years of income and tax returns. And of course, there's a lot of programs out there for those types of clients, but they don't always fit. They got to check off all the boxes. So getting with a lender up front is good. In fact, I've had he's an EXP agent, he and his wife, they were the investor on a deal. He brought me one of his friends after we had helped a family get into a home. And he's like, hey, my buddy, he can't get a loan. And I was like, well, let's go through the process. Let's get with a lender and go do our due diligence. And the lender's like, oh, I got a program for him. So they went and got him a house. He didn't have to do rent to own. So rent to own is always a backup. It's not, we can get them in any kind of loan that works for them. Great. So back to ideal, steady income. We gotta make sure they can pay their rent. They need to have money up front. And so about 7% or more of the purchase price is the low end. Now that Home Partners and Divvy, the big companies are gone, there aren't, that I know of, any legit companies that have really low entry. I'm going to dive into that because that's an important part of this, who qualifies. I like them to have a little savings cushion, not pay everything they've got up front. Just, this is CYA for them, and just I want to set them up for success. And whether you work with another company, these are the principles that you want to look at. And then fixable issues. I've seen page after page of credit reports that's just like that. It wasn't, life happens to people, divorce, illness, those kinds of things, right? We're going to look at the big picture, and as long as they're motivated to fix that and they can, then that's a good sign. But if they're habitually just not paying stuff just because they didn't want to, we usually can see through that, right? So, and then again, we're getting with a lender, and if the lender's like, oh, we can get this done in 18 months or whatever they say, I take their opinion into consideration heavily. If they said no, I would run, and I do. So if they don't have any money up front, so again, the teachers, if they just don't have that money saved up, unfortunately, this wouldn't be a solution for them. Probably just save up and get into one of those low down payment programs with the bank. They're just gonna have to wait. If they don't have any extra money for savings, spotty job history, or no current job, high debt to income ratio, things, we look at it like a lender, but we've got a little more flexibility because we're not held to these check boxes that the banks are. And again, habitual problems, or the lender says, nope, run away. I'm not going to be able to help them. So properties, we're just buying on the MLS. If for some reason we happen to run across something off market that we could buy that lined up, great, but that usually doesn't happen. So just anything on the MLS, they can go shopping. Ideally single family, townhomes if they're fee simple and warrantable, but ideally single family, near good schools, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, medium price range. And of course, step 2, we want to make sure it's eligible for a mortgage when they go to purchase. If it's really in bad shape and FHA is not going to, or VA is not going to prove it once they do their inspection and their appraisal, then that's not good. So just cookie cutter homes those are ideal. Unqualified, again, if they're distressed, not habitable, those higher price ranges are harder to make that work. Condos, manufactured mobile homes. And the reasoning behind that, just so it sinks in, is if we ended up with the house back, which we don't want, we want to set everybody up so that they can buy it. If we got it back, we don't want property that's hard to go find another rent-to-own buyer or a regular renter or sell it. But we can be flexible. I've got some case studies where we've gone outside of that too. So but that's a snapshot of what's ideal or not. So here there's a lot of confusion. How much equity are they building? How much of the rent is going to the house? So our goal is to find people that have 10% or more of the purchase price to pay up front. So they're paying that money up front. that entire amount is a full credit to them. Not like all programs are not like that. So it's just sitting there being held until they get their loan and buy it. So 10%, one of the reasons we like 10%, besides it's just some skin in the game because it's non-refundable, 10% should cover a 3.5% FHA loan or 5% conventional, plus closing costs and maybe a little extra to keep their mortgage down when they buy it. So because they're paying that up front, they're just going to pay basically, let's call it market rent, right? So in whatever market, 2,500's market rent. We're not asking them to pay more than that. That's where rent credits come in. So some programs like Divvy, which was an EX trusted provider, I think, something like that. They had these programs where you could put 1 or 2% down, and then, but that's not enough for that 3.5% FHA loan plus closing costs. So they would make them pay more. So in this example, say rent was $3,000, make them pay $200 a month more than market rent. So they got to be able to afford that. And that $200 is being saved up for them so that when they get their loan from the bank, they've got their money for the down payment. So it's setting them up for success in the future when they get that loan. If hopefully that all makes sense. Feel free to unmic if you got questions about it while we're talking about it.
So you're saying they put the 10% down and they pay more than market rent, or
No,
they
it's an either
or? That makes sense.
Versus, yep, exactly. Yep. And we don't do the rent credits. We just wait for buyers that have around 10% or more. And it cuts out a lot of people, right? But without that, it's a lot more risky for us. So
at that 10%, let's say the house was 400, so 10%, 40,000 is, so you hold for closing costs, and then the remainder of it is towards a down payment, or
it's however they decided to use it. So say they put down 10%, they don't have to put, they're gonna have closing costs, but they don't have to put all of that down. Maybe they're a VA, even though we require that up front. They might want to go get that VA loan with zero down and just use that 10% to use the price of the home so that their rent's lower. So it's just however they want to work it out with the lender. So what if the market goes down? That's the big fear, right? So the first and the lease and the option period, you can do it for free or for a fee. We've done both. Ideally, we don't have to extend it. And so that's to come back to working with a lender. The lender usually has the best idea of how much time they need. And most of these are 1 to 3 years. We've done them up to 10, but most people just need a couple of years to get things straightened out. But we want to give them enough time so their back's not against the wall. But the contract has a deadline in it. So if they only need a year, we'll give them 2 or 3, and they can buy whenever they want. They can buy, after 12 months, ideally. If they wanted to buy earlier, we could figure something out. The problem with buying before 12 months in a day is that we get hit with short-term capital gains like a flipper, and can be a big chunk. So, but most people that do this, they need 12 months or more anyway. So it's never been an issue, but I just wanted to.
So I'm following. So this is finding houses where basically sellers are willing to be landlords or just rent landlords, whether they're managing or y'all are managing, but they're willing to rent their house for the period of time that the buyer is going to turn around and be able to buy it. Is that how that's working?
That's a good question. I've gone down that path trying to find sellers to do that, but it's a needle in a haystack because most people that have their property on market need to sell.
Right. And then they need their money. So where are these houses being found? What
Right
type of houses are these?
Right on the MLS. So we, as a company, are buying the house from whoever's selling on market. Yeah. So we don't have to worry about trying to convince a seller that needs the money, or maybe they don't need it, but they're just eliminates that.
Y'all are buying it and then turn around and renting it back to somebody to do the rent to own scenario.
Exactly. Yep.
And then what's your sweet spot for pricing?
Median, somewhere in that median price range.
In the market.
It's harder to make it work. If it's a jumbo loan.
And do y'all typically buy them for market value?
as long as we can make all the numbers work. Of course, it's become more of a buyer's market. So if we can get some seller concessions back, that would be great. In fact, I'm going to talk about another program where that could be a real big benefit. So
If somebody's having trouble selling a house, this might be a potential option for them to at least pitch it to y'all to see if it could make sense for y'all to put together an offer that could make sense for the seller.
well, here's the huge thing, right? If every seller's concerned about having a good buyer that can close, right? Well, we're buying it, not the rent to own buyer that's
Right.
can't even get a loan. We have to put 25% down. We're pre-qualified. We're good buyers. So it's a good safe bet for them. So, yep. Let's see. So again, if the market goes down, first thing, just extend the lease and the option. Wait for that market to come back up. The difference in the money they pay up front might be enough for them to cover that gap. So, or maybe they've got that in savings and they're willing to pay that out of pocket. It's not ideal, but it's an option. Again, it's an option to buy. They've got a lease with an option. So if the market really crashed, and they can walk away, it's possible to renegotiate terms. It comes down to a business decision between us and them. And then we don't allow them to assign a contract to another buyer in our documents. But if they find a good qualified buyer to buy them out, we'd consider it. So not every company's going to be as flexible, and there's one Home Partners is out of the market, right? Well, I don't know all the reasons why they got out. Could be a shift in the market, but I have heard of some lawsuits. They didn't handle their business. Maybe they should have. So that could have been part of it. So again, there's rent-to-own's been given a bad name by either big companies like that or individuals. There's plenty of individuals that whip up contracts, go to an attorney or make it up on their own and don't really understand how this works or the question.
Sorry, man. I do have two long questions that you might be able to answer for the program like this. With those kind of qualifications and down payments, do you find it hard to actually find qualifying clients? Because if they're already in that kind of position, it seems like they'd be pretty much apt to get a loan anyway to buy a house. So do you find it hard to find clients who qualify for this but don't qualify for home loans?
Yes, it is difficult. But like I said, there's a lot of check boxes that the banks require. So maybe they've had a good business, but they don't have 2 full years with the business. They don't have their tax returns, things like that. That's where this comes in. They make good money. They've got some money saved up, but banks, that's not working. Oops.
And then second question then is, I guess maybe in Colorado, customarily, how do you guys usually structure fees or commissions then? Is it usually like maybe as you found you a rental for you $500, but then you agree to work with me? Or are you guys as a company willing to pay a broker's fee down the road for either maybe a partial commission when they actually convert it over to their house?
Yep, no, you get paid up front. And so how you get paid is the buy side commission. So we're going to put that into the contract, say that's 3%. And then we need to do a split of that. So depending on how much work you do, if it's out of state, I'm going to have you do more work. And so we'll do basically a referral. So you'll get the majority of that buy side commission up front. So you don't have to wait.
Cool. Thanks.
That's how that works.
I have a question. Hi. I have a client interested to purchase, but my question here is, what about if you guys purchase the house they are currently living right now?
What?
If you have the option to buy the property that they are actually living right now, and then you rent then the house auction to buy. Is that possible?
Buy out whoever owns it now? Yeah, we could do that.
Because I can offer them that auction.
Yeah, if they've got the money up front and
it's a couple, and then they have their savings, and I think I can give them that choice.
yeah, let's talk. And have you got them with a lender already?
No, first I cannot work it directly because I'm a referral agent. But it's an auction I can offer her so she
Yeah,
can work with a realtor.
great. Are they Spanish speaking?
Yes.
Perfect. So
In
I don't know if you're on early
Miami.
Miami. So Dominic Danino that I host the Mr. Rent to Own Home show with, he's bilingual and a lender and really understands these programs. We could have them talk to him unless you want to work with a lender that any lender will work, but I trust Dominic because he really understands the program. So I don't have to train
Okay.
a lender to understand how it works. But anyway, reach out. At the end, I'll put my contact info in the chat.
Thank
Cool. Good questions.
Hello, this is Tracy Wiggins. I apologize. I missed quite a bit of your presentation. I had different calls to come in. So
Okay.
I was the one that put
Recorded.
comments about Divvy and home partners and
Mhm.
Landis. And so you guys differ from them how? I know for Divvy, I did a lot of deals for Divvy here in Georgia when I first moved, and the credit didn't have to be so high. So I don't know what your credit amount is, your required credit. This is certainly a great program for even people like me. I used to be a full-time hairstylist, and sometimes I just wouldn't file those taxes like I should. And so
Yeah.
you have the money. Meaning the credit wasn't all the way there, but you definitely had the money. Truck drivers, I see so many people that could benefit from this. What was the minimum credit score? And when Divvy was there, they would pay a little bit more than average rent. A portion of their rent would go into a savings to assure that they would be able to buy this house. And Divvy really had a limit of 3 years. They want you to buy it back within 3 years or you lose half your savings. How does this differ from that?
I think I've got a slide later. We talk about that, but while we're
Well,
on
that's
this,
fine.
go back and watch the recording. It's in EXP University on YouTube as well. I think I'm diving into a little bit more detail on this one. But so, well, for the one big difference is Divvy and Home Partners are gone. Those aren't even options, right?
Still here in Georgia. Are you saying they're not options in period? They just leave? Because I just sent a client to them. So I know that they're still here.
To Divvy?
Divvy is still in Georgia, yes.
Interesting. Well, both companies announced about 4 months ago that they were getting out of the business.
Interesting.
Because Home Partners is not taking applications, but
I hadn't talked to them in a while. We have Trio and we also have Landis. So those different rental home companies too. So
right.
like I said, I apologize. I came in late, so I'll let you continue your presentation and come back and listen to the recording.
I think I've got a slide. I'll talk about that. And we'll have the Q&A at the end too. Are we going to hit this, like, Kathy, just stop it right at the
We
top of the
actually
hour?
probably we need to stop probably about 5 till. I've got
Oh.
another meeting I've got to be a part of, so we're probably
All right, we'll try to do this. Let's see. So, well, we're getting towards the end here. So best practices, work with a competent company. If it's like if you ran across somebody selling on their own, doing a lease option, I would get an attorney for your client to go through that with them. Or at least give me a call and I can take a look at what they're being offered. We're going to set up that plan again, working with a lender, get their opinion on it. So everybody's on the same page so we know that what they need to do to get their loan. Again, I want them to have that extra savings just in case they got a month or something or two or whatever. If they need credit repair, that's super convoluted. There's a lot of reasons why credit can be off, right? But get them with a trusted credit repair specialist. I'll call out Lexington Law. They're kind of limited. They're very popular, but they don't have all the tools and they like to get their monthly payments for that service. So, or just maybe your lender can provide some good guidance without charging anything extra. So that's usually the first thing. But if it's complicated, I can recommend one. Then again, have the contracts reviewed by a professional. In our contracts, we have a place for the buyer to have their agent or attorney sign. In Colorado, I sign on behalf of the investing side, and then follow up. That's part of our process is following up with the buyer and the lender, credit specialist if needed. So let's see. We are short on. Well, we got what 10 minutes. I'll crank through this. So this is actually an agent in. Let me silence my phone. You're not hearing it, but it's annoying me. This was an agent. He didn't have 2 full years He was making good money, but it just didn't have 2 years. So he actually picked out a duplex, and within 2 years, the market went up. That's where it benefited, because his price to buy in the future was not 20% or whatever. It had gone up in 18 months when he bought it. And so he walked in about 60 grand extra equity. And so he was able to buy a single family home and turn that duplex into a rental. So this is us helping agents, which is super cool. And because he'd been through the program, he became our buyer specialist out there, because he'd been through the program and he could speak to it. So this is a deal where these folks wanted to move to a rural area. Again, not ideal, but they put 15% down. He was a contractor, so he was able to go get a job anywhere kind of situation, where it wasn't like, oh, they don't have jobs when they're moving. So it's not ideal if they're moving from state to state, unless it's a job transfer and we know that they've got the job and have the income. So this was an I-10 buyer. They're from Honduras, and this was in Florida. They just did a loan at the time, so we got them a house. Money wise, so we're just looking at these three things: how much money they pay up front, how much they're paying for their lease, and then the future purchase price, and just trying to find a balance for the buyer and for us on our side. So there's no algorithm, you can't really put any numbers to it. We just gotta work it out and make sure everybody's happy. Just an example, so a Denver property, this is around our median price range, 550. So 10% of that would be 55 grand up front. We set these up differently, but usually we just build in some monthly rent increases each year, any kind of rental. And then their future purchase price, we're buying at today's price, right? And so we generally base their purchase price going up each year based on whatever market appreciation is. So Denver is around 6%. So in your market, it might be 2%. So we want to stick to whatever the market normally does. We can't predict what it's going to do, of course, right? So we're going to have that figured out ahead of time. Everybody agrees. And it's got to appraise. So we're always thinking of that. All right, here's some more of the actionable stuff. Reach out to these people that you're probably already working with: lenders, other agents on your team, in your group, repair companies. These are people that might run into good clients they could send to you. Builders, I get calls once in a while where somebody's picked out the finishes on a brand new home, and then the lender's, oh, we missed something, or they did something stupid, not a car, right? That happens. So we could potentially come in and buy it for them, and so they don't lose that house. And then all these others: financial planners, attorneys, insurance agents, CPAs, they're in people's business and run across situations. So if you tell them how you can help them this way, and I've got some graphics you could share. We could do some co-branding, ways to reach out and let people know how we can help people. We talked about this. So agents, you get paid now out of the buy side commission. We'll put that into the contract. Lenders can get paid now because they can close the loan for us, and they can get paid later when they close the loan for the client. So oftentimes it's two different lenders, but sometimes it can be the same lender. So it's a great deal for them as well. So if you tell your lenders about this, and then once they get it, they're like, oh, this is awesome. And in fact, one of my coaches was a lender, and he's like, I can't help all these people. So he got into this space. So action steps: go through your database. You might find leads that you couldn't get into a home, but they might fit rent to own. Ask other agents in your office if you can work their leads. You might have a top producer that's just like, I don't want to deal with this, but you might be in a position where you're willing to go through their leads. As we know, a lot of lenders and agents have left the business. There's some leads sitting out there that you could potentially go through. You can be the go-to rent-to-own agent in your office. In fact, I have my coaching program to teach other agents how to do this. So if you're in a market outside of where I am in Colorado, and you want to make this part of your business, let me know. We could work something out, because I've got a network already of a few agents in a few areas. But now that Home Partners and Divvy are out of the business, there's a huge opportunity for us. And I'd love it to be mostly EXP agents, create this network. You can post to social media. Again, I've got some graphics you could share, just stir up some things, get some conversations going, add it to your newsletter that goes out to your clients. Again, tell your lenders about it, maybe work your lenders leads, and then you can share these programs again through your newsletter or on social media to your team. And you can make this a niche of yours. That's how I did it. In fact, I got licensed after the fact. I got into the business and then I'm like, I need to be licensed so I can just do regular business, but also help clients this way.
Actually, I have 2 questions. Your contact information, could you
Yep.
put it in the chat for us?
I will.
And number 2, are you in California?
We can do it anywhere as long as we can make the numbers work.
Because
Yep.
10% of the average home here is $750 and 10% is $75,000. A lot of people don't have that kind of money
Right.
up front.
Yep. No matter what market, 10% is a big chunk, but makes it harder in California. Yep.
I'll look at the chat for your information. Thank you.
Okay, cool. I'll get in there once I'm almost through here. Let's see. Create a rent video about rent to own. We could do hop on a Zoom and do a little interview kind of scenario if you wanted. We can get creative on ways to let people know how we can help. I'm already hosting this class for you guys, but if you had a small team or wanted me to do this again for a different group, let me know. I can go through this again. Some of these companies, I like people to have actually gone through this or at least watched the short video on our website so you kind of understand this. But some companies like Divvy and Home Partners require you to go through a video series and get registered. So it's a good idea to go do that first. A little pro tip here that I do. So if you've got a listing that is that cookie cutter home that might fit rent to own, go into your listing terms in the MLS and check off those things like lease purchase, owner will carry, because you may find buyers that don't qualify. They can become your buyer. Basically, you could, if they don't have an agent, double end it basically, and we'll actually buy the home from you by your listing. If that makes sense. Let's see. Again, let your seller know that we'd be coming in with 20% or more, or possibly a cash offer, so that we are a good buyer for your client. So tell them what you're doing. Tell them you're checking these things off. In fact, your listing agreement probably needs to have that in there, but just say, hey, I'm a creative listing agent, potentially bringing you more buyers than a regular agent would. So, and you might come up with some good rent-owned buyer leads, or investors will be calling you for these too, because they're looking for those deals where they don't have to go to a bank either, but they could become a good investor client for you. So hopefully this is getting the wheels turning for you guys. Again, listings not selling. I've got a big network of investors, creative finance type people. Maybe we can come up with something, a good solution for you. If you have sellers that have no equity. How are you doing on time, Kathy? It's 9:55 here.
Yep, I need to leave in about 1 or 2 minutes. So
all right. Well, this is recorded, so let's see. If you want to be an investor, let me know. Questions, go there, and I will put. You